Do you like mysteries? To wander through the enigmatic mist of the inexplicable? Great. I'm Merc, and here you'll find what you're looking for. Welcome to my domains. The truth dissolves into the mist.
The mystery of Amelia Earhart is about to be solved. A new submerged anomaly has been found in the Pacific. Will we finally discover what happened to the most famous aviator in history? On July 2nd, 1937, the world paused to listen to the silence. Amelia Earhart, the most celebrated aviator of her generation, vanished over the vast and unforgiving Pacific Ocean. Alongside her navigator, Fred Noonan, she was on the final stretch of a journey that would make her the first woman to circumnavigate the globe along the equator. But the aircraft, a Lockheed Electra 10E nicknamed the Flying Laboratory, simply dissolved on the horizon, never to be seen again. What followed was the largest and most expensive search in aviation history, a massive operation that scoured thousands of square miles of ocean but found absolutely nothing. By January 1939, Earhart and Noonan were declared legally dead, but the question remained, what truly happened on that fateful day? The disappearance gave rise to a myriad of theories, some suggesting she was a spy captured by the Japanese, others that she returned to the United States and lived under a false identity. But one hypothesis always stood out from the rest, the Nikumaroro Hypothesis. The belief that Earhart and Noonan did not crash into the ocean but managed to land on a remote and deserted island. The island in question is Nikumaroro, an isolated coral atoll in the South Pacific, situated between Hawaii and Australia, a tiny pinpoint in an infinite ocean. What makes this theory so compelling is a series of disturbing pieces of evidence found on the island over the decades. Fragments of a woman's shoe, a compact makeup case, and even a jar of freckle cream, all dated to the 1930s. In 1940, human bones were discovered on Nikumaroro, and a 2018 analysis strongly suggested they belonged to a woman of Earhart's stature. But the missing piece was always the aircraft itself, the Lockheed Electra, the physical proof that could seal the aviator's fate forever. And now, nearly 9 decades later, that proof may have finally been found. In 2020, a United States Navy veteran named Mike Ashmore, analyzing satellite imagery from his home in California, spotted something strange in the lagoon of Nikumaroro, an elongated formation, partially buried in the sediment, a silhouette that, in his perspective, resembled the wing of an airplane. He shared the image on an online forum, and the structure soon received a name, the Taraia Object. Since, researchers have compared recent satellite images with aerial photographs taken in 1938, just 1 year after Earhart's disappearance. The anomaly appears to be in the same location, motionless, buried in the lagoon for almost a century, waiting. Archaeologist Richard Pettigrew, executive director of the Archaeological Legacy Institute, is convinced that the Taraia Object is Earhart's Lockheed Electra. "I'm very confident about that," Pettigrew declared. "I'm excited, but confidence is not unanimous. Skeptics point out that the shape could simply be a tree felled by a tropical storm covered by sediment over the years. Aviation accident investigator Rick Gillespie, who has studied Earhart for decades, stated that the satellite image shows a fallen coconut palm, not the famous airplane. "We looked at that location, and there's nothing there," he said. But Pettigrew and his team are not willing to accept that explanation. They need to see it with their own eyes. The expedition, called the Taraia Object Expedition, is a partnership between Purdue University and the Archaeological Legacy Institute, KIT. It was originally scheduled for October 2025 but was postponed due to adverse weather conditions and the need for authorization from the government of Kiribati, the island nation that controls Nikumaroro, Now, with final approvals in hand, the mission is officially back on track. A team of 16 people, composed of archaeologists, filmmakers, divers, and representatives from Kiribati, will depart in October 2026. They will travel from Taraia, the capital of Kiribati, on a ship, sailing approximately 830 nautical miles across the Pacific to the remote atoll of Nikumaroro. The journey will take 6 days, 6 days of open sea, of anticipation and silence, as they approach the site where history may finally be rewritten. Upon arrival, the team will have only a few days to investigate the submerged anomaly in the lagoon. They plan to use diving equipment and underwater imaging technology to examine the Taraia Object up close, to finally determine if it is metal or wood, if it is an airplane or just a log. But the lagoon of Nikumaroro is not an easy place to explore. The currents are treacherous, visibility is limited, and time is short. The pressure is immense. Each dive, each image captured, could be the final piece of the puzzle. If the researchers confirm that the Taraia Object is Earhart's plane, they plan to conduct a large-scale archaeological excavation next year. There are even discussions about the eventual curation of the wreckage, with the dream of returning the aircraft to Purdue University, fulfilling Amelia's original wish. The plane, after all, was hers, a flying laboratory funded by the university itself. Earhart had a deep connection with Purdue, having joined the university in 1935 as a career counselor for women. She intended to return the Electra to Purdue after her world trip to support future aeronautical research. Fate, however, had other plans. Now, nearly 9 decades later, the flying laboratory may be about to return home, but the question that echoes through time is, what actually happened to Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan? The Nikumaroro Hypothesis suggests they landed on the island, became stranded, and eventually died as castaways. The bones found in 1940, the personal belongings, the radio transmissions picked up after the disappearance, all these fragments point to a slow and lonely death on a deserted island. But there is another possibility, darker, more disturbing. Some believe Earhart and Noonan did not die on Nikumaroro, that they were captured. What do the waters of Nikumaroro Lagoon truly hide? The expedition is about to begin, and the world will watch. The mystery of Amelia Earhart is about to be solved. A new submerged anomaly has been found in the Pacific. Will we finally discover what happened to the most famous aviator in history? The Taraia Object, a visual anomaly in the lagoon of Nikumaroro, discovered by a Navy veteran in satellite images, may be the key to unraveling one of the greatest enigmas of the 20th century. But the discovery of this object is not the only thread in this web of mystery. Over the years, other clues have been gathered, such as a photograph taken in 1937 that shows an unusual shape near a reef, interpreted by some as the landing gear of the aircraft. And there are also the radio logs, voice messages intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard as Earhart approached Howland Island. "We are running low on fuel," she warned, a desperate message that was lost in the noise of the Pacific. Neither Earhart nor Noonan knew Morse code, so there was no two-way communication, just a voice slowly fading on the radio. What happened after the last transmission was received? The most widely accepted theory is that they ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean, near Howland Island. But proponents of the Nikumaroro Hypothesis argue that they may have seen the island, may have attempted an emergency landing. The question is, why Nikumaroro? The island is hundreds of miles from Howland, their original destination, but Pacific currents and winds may have pushed them off course. Visibility was poor, navigation was inaccurate, and fuel was running out. They may have spotted Nikumaroro as a last hope, a lifeline in a hostile ocean. If they landed on the island, how did they survive? Nikumaroro is a coral atoll with little fresh water and sparse vegetation. They would have faced the scorching sun, lack of food, and absolute solitude. The bones found in 1940 suggest that one of them, or both, did not survive long. But there are those who doubt the bones belong to Earhart. The expert who examined them at the time believed they belonged to a middle-aged man. However, a more recent analysis, conducted in 2018, concluded that Earhart is more similar to the Nikumaroro bones than 99% of individuals compared. The controversy persists. And what about the personal items found on the island? A woman's shoe, a makeup case, a jar of freckle cream, all items a woman of the 1930s would carry. But could they belong to someone else, perhaps to one of the many ships that wrecked in the region over the centuries? The evidence is circumstantial, but when added together, it forms an intriguing pattern. And now, the Taraia object adds a new layer to this mystery. The anomaly was first identified in 2020, but researchers believe it has been there since at least the late 1930s. If true, that means the object has been submerged in the lagoon for nearly 90 years, waiting to be discovered. But how did it get there? If it is Earhart's plane, how did it end up at the bottom of a lagoon? The theory is that the Electra landed in the lagoon, or near it, and was dragged into the water by tides or storms. The lagoon of Nikumaroro is shallow, and the plane may have remained partially submerged for decades, covered by sediment. Satellite images show an elongated shape, about 20 meters in length, roughly the size of a Lockheed Electra 10E. But the images are ambiguous, and the interpretation is subjective. That is why the expedition is so crucial. Only an on-site inspection can provide a definitive answer. The team of 16 people, led by Richard Pettigrew, is preparing for this mission. They are aware of the challenges, the unpredictable weather, the treacherous waters, and the limited time. But they are also driven by the possibility of making the discovery of a lifetime. Finding Amelia Earhart's aircraft would be the discovery of a lifetime, Pettigrew said. The expedition is supported by several organizations, including RECON Offshore, the Kiribati National Shipping Line, Columbia Sportswear, and the Museum of Flight. Purdue University, which has a long history with Earhart, is deeply involved. 3 representatives from the university will be part of the crew, including Steve Schultz, Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Purdue. They will fly from the Amelia Earhart Terminal at Purdue University Airport, a tribute to the aviator who still lives on campus. The expedition is more than a search for wreckage. It is a pilgrimage, an attempt to close a chapter that has remained open for nearly 9 decades. But what will happen if they find the plane? The discovery would confirm the Nikumaroro Hypothesis, providing the physical proof that was missing. It would answer the question what happened to Amelia Earhart, but it would also raise new questions. How did they survive? How long did they live? And what happened to their remains? And if they find nothing, if the Taraia object is just a rock formation or a fallen tree, the expedition would still contribute to knowledge, ruling out one possibility and focusing the search on other areas. But the cost would be high, both financial and emotional. Millions of dollars have already been spent on previous expeditions, many of which ended in frustration. In 2024, an ocean exploration company conducted a deep-water search near Howland Island, after spotting what they believed to be the wreckage of the Electra. It turned out to be a rock formation. The search for Amelia Earhart is a story of hope and disillusionment, of broken promises and mysteries that stubbornly remain. But this time, hope is renewed. The government of Kiribati has given its approval, the team is ready, and the Taraia object is waiting. What will it reveal? The answer lies in the depths of Nikumaroro Lagoon. The expedition is scheduled for October 2026, a date that could become a milestone in aviation history. The world will be watching, eager for an answer, for closure. Amelia Earhart disappeared 89 years ago, but her legend never died. She defied conventions, pushed the limits of the possible, and inspired countless people to do the same. Her quest to circle the globe was more than an adventure. It was a statement, proof that women could achieve what men considered impossible. She was one of the most famous people in the world at the time, and her disappearance shocked everyone. Now, nearly a century later, her story continues to captivate. The new clue in the Pacific may finally solve the mystery, or it may just be another chapter in an endless saga. What do you think? Is the Taraia object really Amelia Earhart's plane? Or is it just an illusion, a trick of light and shadow? The answer may be closer than we imagine. As the expedition prepares to set sail, the silence of the Pacific guards its secrets. But in October, that silence will be broken, and perhaps we will finally hear the truth. The mystery of Amelia Earhart is about to be solved. A new submerged anomaly has been found in the Pacific. Will we finally discover what happened to the most famous aviator in history?
Did you like this mystery? And what is your theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, then like and share. I'm Merc, and I'll be waiting for you in the next mystery.